On today's episode, I'll give you a great example of when to use tree supports instead of regular supports, and we'll do it on this design right here, which is a tool holder for all the tools you get with your Ender 3 or Ender 3 clone. And I'll share this file so you can download it yourself for free. I'll explain it all on today's Filament Friday. Filament Friday is brought to you by the generous donations of these Patreon supporters. In a previous video, I showed this 3D print that I designed in Tinkercad. It slides right onto a 440 rail, and it's designed to hold a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, a spray bottle, so you can clean your bed. Well, that turned out to be a pretty bad idea because this stuff is flammable. It says right on it to keep away from heat. Probably not a good idea to put next to your 3D printer. But I thought maybe I could do something else with this design. So it occurred to me there's a whole bunch of tools that come with your Ender 3 or Ender 3 clone, plus a little extra bits and pieces. So it'd be great to turn this into a tool holder to hold all that stuff. I went back to Tinkercad, took the original design, but made an insert for it. An insert that has slots for all the different tools. And then I just stuck that insert inside the box. So now I've also got an area to store little bits and pieces. There's a spot for the putty knife, there's a spot for the side cutters, 2 slots for the wrenches, and then a bunch of holes for the Allen wrenches and screwdriver, plus a little area to put the little pieces. I grouped it all together, and here's the final design. Now I'll export this as a .stl file, bring it into Cura, and now we can slice it. But you'll notice it's got these red marks. That's Cura's way of telling you it needs supports to print properly. So I'll go into the slicing, I'll use my 0.28 profile, and I'll click on the Generate Support box. And then let's slice this guy. It says it's going to take 5 hours and 4 minutes, but it only puts supports on the bottom. Well, that's because of one of the settings in the support. I need support on the top here too. So let's go back to the slicing. Instead of touching build plate, let's say slice everywhere. So let's slice it again. It's a little bit longer, but now we got supports top and bottom. But this looks like it could be hard to remove because we got to push that out of this little gap here. In fact, I printed it out and here it is. And I'll show you how hard it is to remove that center section. I had to use the putty knife to get underneath it, pry it up a little bit, and then I used a screwdriver to get underneath it. So once I got it high enough, then I could put the screwdriver in, and then it popped out pretty easily with the screwdriver, but it left things kind of rough. So I wasn't real happy with that, and then the bottom one just popped off with the putty knife and went flying. So let's go back to the Cura slicer and let's choose tree supports instead of standard supports. And that's just drop down, normal versus tree. So I click on tree. There's some other settings you can change, but I'll leave it the way it is. It's a little bit longer, but here's tree supports. You can see it's growing from the bottom, but it's also got a piece in between. So let's go back to touching build plate instead of everywhere, and let's slice it again. Now it's a little bit less, still longer than before, but look at this. It only is supporting the bottoms. This is exactly what I want. This is where tree supports is perfect. All the way across, but only in the spots that were red. And here it is printed out, and it looks just like it did in preview. Really, really good. And if you look between them, there's no plastic to remove, so this should remove pretty easily. So let's try it. So here it is, ready to be removed, and I can grab it with a pair of pliers. And just like that, it pops off. Both the bottom and top, they're all connected. You can't get much easier than that, and the print is pretty clean. There's only a few fragments to file off. I like this. This is a much better result than the standard supports. To install it, you just pop the cap off the back, and this thing will slide right on the rail. And then you put the cap back on. That's if you want to install it in the back. I'll show you how to install in the front in a minute. But let's put the tools in and see if they fit. So you got the putty knife, the side cutters, the wrenches, and then all the Allen wrenches go into their spots. Finally the screwdriver and then the little bits and pieces. So it works really well. Now if you have a rear spool holder that's in this area, you may want to put it in the front. On some machines it's a little bit harder. So if you try to slide it forward, it's going to hit the Z-stop and you have to remove these 2 screws. So it's possible, but then you have to re-level your bed. The other option is to remove the cover on the front. Now this is an Ender 3 Pro. Ender 3 is something similar. Each machine's a little bit different, but there's 1 screw at the rail, 2 in the front, 2 on the bottom, and there's 1 under the bed. Once I take that off, I can get to the electronics area, but I don't really care. I just want to lift this up enough to slide it on the rail. So now I can lift it up, slide it back onto the rail, and then just reverse it. Put all the screws back in. So the easiest way to me is put the one at the back, exactly opposite of the way it went in, because this is like the hardest screw to put in. 2 at the bottom, 2 at the front, and then finally that one next to the rail. And then it's ready to go. So you might like it here, you might like it in the back. It's your choice. Many times I get asked, when should I use tree supports? Well, this is a perfect example. I could support both of them and not have that piece in the middle to break away. And it broke away so easy and nice and clean, tree supports were perfect. And if you want to print this tool holder, I'll put a link to it in the description below, and you can download it and install it on your Ender 3 or Ender 3 clone if it fits any printer with these 440 rails. If you like what I'm doing here, maybe check out some of the other videos that are popping up. And if nothing else, click on that CHEP logo and subscribe. I'll see you next time right here at Filament Friday.